In the first year of Horeb, 1.5 million Eshyans, men, women, and children, were received into God's kingdom in heaven. Meanwhile, 3.25 million Eshyans remained on the earth's divisions with the lords, mostly in fetal form. In the first 100 years, 170 million Eshyans were born from the earth. This represented 3 generations of the Ahins, whose total population, excluding the Asuans, who were not created for everlasting life, was 54 million. By this time, each lord's heavenly place had become a large kingdom. During this era, 5 years were allotted to Eshyans in their infancy in heaven. However, some required many more years of nurturing. After 5 years, the Eshyans left the nurseries and began basic education, including symbols, music, dancing, and gymnastics. They were also required to perform brief labor, such as weaving, spinning, and transportation. Jehovah instructed God, saying, "The structure of my kingdom requires all labor to be agreeable and conducive to spiritual growth." God followed Jehovah's command and lengthened the hours of labor based on the age and strength of the spirits that came from the earth. Jehovah again spoke to God, "Let those who have lived in heaven for 50 years be allowed to return to mortals. They will have lost the desire for engraftment, so it will be safe." Jehovah continued, "As fast as you can, assign the labor of earthborn spirits to help resurrect others." Verse 9. In 100 years, 20 million souls were raised to the second rate. They became competent in manufactories, nurseries, schools, and hospitals in heaven, achieving the requirements of their teachers. Verse 10. Jehovah then said, "Take rest, my son. You have worked for 100 years without ceasing. Appoint officers and extend horde to cover all of Waga, the continent of Pan. Appoint your most efficient officer to sit on the throne while you travel to visit the 5 lords of the earth and their kingdoms." Verse 11, Jehovah instructed God to take with him 1,000 heralds, 1,000 messengers, 5,000 musicians, and a ship sufficient to carry his hosts for a 1-year journey. Verse 12, God called the surveyors who brought maps of earth and heaven showing the best places to extend the kingdom of Horeb. Verse 13, God appointed 50 governors, each with 5,000 men and women, to lead the new colonies. God addressed them, saying, "You are chosen by the Father's command. I will come to your places and bestow what is needed to build up colonies in Jehovah's name." Verse 14, God continued, "As you have witnessed the founding of Horeb, go forth and do the same in your respective places." Verse 15, the hosts filed before the throne, saluting with the sign of Jehovah's name. God's hands were raised, and the Eshenors sang in glory to Jehovah as the hosts passed out. Verse 16. After the departure, God ordered the building of a ship for his journey and selected companions and hosts based on their grade. Verse 17. Those chosen were notified, and God said, "While I am absent, the one who has done the most for the resurrection of the Eshyans will sit on my throne." Verse 18. Hajjah, an Etherian, was chosen, and God sent an escort to bring him to the capital. Verse 19. Hajjah was brought before God, and God said, "By Jehovah's command I have summoned you here. You are chosen for your virtue and labors, and by Jehovah you will be my assistant and my God in this kingdom while I am gone." Verse 20. Hajjah said, "This is the will of Jehovah, proceed." Verse 21. God struck the gavel, and the council rose. God then said, "In Jehovah's name I salute you, Hajjah, as God of Tech. Come forth and receive the throne." Verse 22. The marshals conducted Hajjah to the foot of the throne, and God led him up. A light of golden fire descended from above, illuminating them both. Verse 23. God said, "By thy wisdom, love, and power, O Jehovah, do I receive this thy son on thy throne." Verse 24. God raised a rod, waving it, and rain came down. Hajjah said, "In thy name, O Jehovah." God then requested a crown, which descended as a small light and formed into a crown. God placed it on Hajjah's head, saying, "In Jehovah's name I crown you, God of Tech." Verse 25, Hajjah responded, "Thy son, O Jehovah, shall fulfill thy commandments." The council echoed, "Amen," and the Eshenors chanted in praise to Jehovah. Verse 26, God led Hajjah forth and seated him on the throne, saying, "You are now God in my name and Jehovah's." Verse 27, God departed from Horeb on his ship, taking with him 7,000 men and women, 1,000 Essenaurs, and 3,000 crew members.